Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and today we are joined by Savannah, one of my close friends, and we're going to talk about puppies. So we're going to talk about from day one, even pre-day one, day 000, all the way through puppyhood. So Savannah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Savannah has 2 Italian Greyhounds, and Savannah, tell us how old they are and how old were they when you got them?
Yeah, so like you said, I have 2. Their names are Sky and Cora. Sky I got first. Got her when she was 8 weeks old. She will be 2 this coming July, so July 12th. Cora, we got her at 13 weeks old, and she's 1.5 right now. She'll be, well, a little over, so she'll be 2 in February of next year.
So we're going to work through like before you got them to now. But before we do that, is there a reason you got one at 8 weeks and you got one at 13 weeks?
More timing of being able to go get. Yeah, that's essentially it. So we were able to get Sky earlier. Cora, timing with being off work to go pick her up. That's how it worked out. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got a puppy like 2 months ago. She was like 7.5, right at 8 weeks. Dutch Shepherd. It's my first Dutch Shepherd, my first working dog. And I hadn't had a puppy in 16 years. And I was revisiting a lot of what we're going to talk about today because I didn't remember how hard it was to have a puppy. And I say that in the best way. I don't say that complaining. I don't say that negatively. But I think the reality is that social media is like, oh, cute puppy and cute photos and ribbons and bows and stuffed animals, and that's just not the reality of a puppy. So let's start with pre-puppy. How did you decide where you were going to get your puppies?
A lot of research, a lot hours and hours and hours and time spent into looking into what I wanted and what fits our lifestyle, and would we be a right fit? Not only is the puppy a right fit, but are we a right fit for that breed and that puppy? But really deep diving once we figured out what would make sense for us and what if we would make sense for them, now the breeder. So looking into the breeder. There was a lot, I have a lot of lists of, well, I say a lot of lists of what I look for in a particular breeder, specifically more like how long have they been breeding? How long have they been in the industry? Because if they've only been in it for 10 years, that sounds like a long time. When you think about it, like my Italian Greyhounds average 16, 18, sometimes 20 years. That's not a long time for them. So they haven't had where one of their litters has hit senior age technically yet. So they don't know as they develop and get older what their puppies are doing. So ideally, I looked for a breeder that has been dealing with it for 25 years plus, and even generational if their parents and their grandparents were doing it. So if you have a lineage and field lines and working lines that have been doing it for decades and generations, that's really ideal if you can. Also, how many litters are they producing a year? If they have 2 to 3 females, they shouldn't be producing more than 2 to 3 litters a year. Otherwise, it's back to back, not healthy for mom, not a great idea. The main thing, though, if the other 2 aren't really hitting, is they have to hit this one. Do they offer contracts? Do they have a contract for their puppy? If they don't, that's a huge red flag for me. Not really interested, because then that's telling me this is more business for you and you're not doing this necessarily just for the benefit of the breed. So do they have the breeder's first right of refusal? So if I bought this puppy and I'm not able to keep this puppy for whatever reason, I die, I'm comatose, I go to jail for whatever reason, I can't have the puppy anymore. Are they going to take the puppy back? Usually most breeders want their puppy back. They don't want their puppy ending up in a rescue or in a shelter. They want first right of refusal. So you would reach out to them saying, hey, something's happening, can't have the puppy anymore. Can you take the puppy? And if they can, great. If not, they usually then provide you a list of rescues. So they want to have that option first. Um, this sounds silly, but a puppy warranty. Does your puppy
Mm-hmm.
come with a warranty?
Yeah.
Usually for the first year, there could be medical concerns that pop up. I think it's called megaesophagus, if I'm not mistaken, is one of them. Waddlers and Dobermans is pretty common. If that develops in the first year, you can return your puppy technically. You would return it to the breeder. You would get a full refund or credit towards a new puppy. But if you don't want to exercise your warranty, you could also say, call the breeder and let them know because they're going to want to know if
Right.
something's wrong with their puppy. So that way they know that this dog has this genetic defect. It could come out in other puppies, so maybe we don't breed her anymore or do something different instead.
Mm-hmm.
And they also may have like a spay or neuter clause where you must get them neutered in an X time frame or you don't get them neutered in an X
Mm-hmm.
time frame because bigger dogs especially kind of need that longer time frame for their testosterone or estrogen or anything like that to go through for them to mature. Some want you to wait till after their first heat cycle,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. So really, do they offer contracts? What are in their contracts? What's a priority for them? That was kind of my main thing looking for with a breeder. If they didn't have those, wasn't necessarily really interested, but we were fortunate enough to find a breeder that was more in line with what we were looking for. So,
Right. That sounds pretty similar to kind of our adventure. I'd been looking for a service dog for a number of years, and I was hoping to get that out of a rescue dog. But after meeting with, trainers and breeders and vets, it didn't seem doable. And you hear a lot about failures of people trying to rescue to make that dog a rescue dog and failing. Like you don't know their genetic history. You don't know any of their history. You don't know kind of how different joints and different things are going to hold up. And that depends on like the service, right? So, after working with a handful of people, there was a breeder that I had my eye on who had been breeding for over 20 years. Um, Very picky breeder who only, lets certain people kind of purchase her puppies. You have to be working with a trainer. You have to be experienced. She had a very long contract with that right of first refusal, that warranty, a lot of that information. And something that was interesting is I said something to her. My puppy was not cheap. I'll be very
mm-hmm.
honest. But my
Yeah.
puppy was also not at the high end. So, you're seeing some of these designer breeds for $10,000, $15,000, and that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Her dogs were cheaper. And I said, "Oh, it's interesting your dogs are cheaper." And she said, "Well, if your dog's more expensive, you're working with a backyard breeder that's just turn and burn and just doing this for money. They don't care. Why would I charge that? How could I justify any higher than my price?" And I said, "That's fair." Like, I think some people think like, oh, just because that breeder's charging more, they're a good breeder. And it's like, that has nothing to do with it. And
Mm-mm.
honestly, probably is the opposite. So very much the same for us. I already knew the dad. I've known the dad dog for a couple of years. He's a ring sport dog and got to interact with the mom, got to see the litter, got to learn a lot about how often they're bred because she doesn't normally breed like that same mommy dog, like over and over again. Like you said, that's what you're looking for. You don't want them just constantly breeding that dog.
Right. Yeah.
And, I think I struggled with getting a puppy from a breeder because I've been very rescue minded, very rescue oriented. And it wasn't until talking to a handful of people to realize how damaging that mindset was of this extremism. Like, you can't be 100% adopt, don't shop, only adopt because whether it's for medical needs, like service needs, maybe just a family, maybe you have a particular need for that dog, you have an allergy, you have a lifestyle, whatever it might be. I think there's appropriate times, of course, to work with a breeder. And there's appropriate times to rescue. And I think you got to be smart about your decision. And so people might not be thrilled about this, but I just don't think we can take an extreme saying breed only or rescue only. And that's something that I've worked through. And people, if you've listened to this podcast, have probably heard me work through over several years. That extreme mindset gets you nowhere. And it's damaging to the industry, it's damaging to dogs. You're possibly forcing dogs into homes where they're not going to remain, they're not going to do well, they're going to get surrendered or euthanized or whatever it might be. So just caveating that conversation with, You have to be smart about whatever route you want to take, and there's always a right way to do it, right?
Right.
So let's talk about picking up the puppies or pre-picking up the puppies. So
Yep.
what did you do before you picked up the puppies as far as like, did you buy anything in particular? Did you do anything around the house to get ready for puppies? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, there was a lot we did. First thing was even before finding the breeder and putting the deposit down and getting our puppy. In short, I wanted to make sure I had money set aside for the puppies. So what I did was I did have a savings account established where I had been having a direct deposit go in there, X amount of dollars going in every month. So that way when I knew when I was ready, we brought the puppy home, I had a nest egg set aside
Right.
just for them.
Yeah.
Because this was my first time also getting a puppy when I got Sky. And so I didn't know everything to expect. I knew there was going to be unexpected expenses, and I didn't want anything to be a surprise that I couldn't cover, especially if she got hurt or something, because especially Italian Greyhounds break bones very frequently and all the time.
Hmm.
Very easy for them to do. So I wanted to have something. So savings was the priority for me. Having, and this isn't for everybody, I know they can't all do this, but having a couple thousand set aside if able to is
Right.
ideal. Um, Buying what we, and then I used that money also when we did decide on the puppy. Okay, the puppy's coming home on this X date. Now I know I need to be prepared. This is what I need to get. And then I use those funds to help supplement to buy some things.
Hmm.
So, what I did for the house was I would get on my hands and knees and actually lay on the floor with my face on the floor, just looking around to see at their level, because they're small. They're going to be
Yeah.
smaller. Obviously, they're not going to be above the couch, especially mine.
Right.
So they're going to be at floor ankle level. So I got it down, hands and knees, and took a look to see what's around that they could get at. Is there wires? Is there something under the couch? Is there something under the coffee table that I may have missed? Broken glass somewhere? Something
Hmm.
along those lines that could be harmful that they could chew on, or something that I don't want destroyed possibly, because puppies are going to chew. That's just what they do. They teeth. They're going to do it. Um, did that, got everything up, got rid of stuff, some items that I've been meaning to get rid of that could be possibly harmful, or making sure that if there was like picture frames on the floor that we've been meaning to hang up, finally got those hung up. So that way, from basically waist down, there was not a whole lot that could possibly get into trouble, they could get into trouble with.
Hmm.
But items, did buy a few kennels, bought a few different kennels. So I
Same.
actually, yeah, it's always good to have options. Playpen, I bought like it's like a kid's playpen, but it's specifically designed so you could wipe, if they had an accident in there, you could wipe it down pretty easy.
Hmm.
So, because you need to have eyes on the puppy at all times, really, if you can, because they're just like a kid. If you're not watching them, they're getting into something.
Hmm.
But if I needed to step away, like go take a shower or dishes or something like that, needed to step away, I would put Sky in the playpen so she had a designated safe area that I
Hmm.
know I could leave her unattended shortly nearby. So with some toys, a lick mat, and a pee pad in there. So that way she could keep herself occupied. And this also helped her with not being so reliant on being with me at all times, even though Italian Greyhounds are known to be in your face and social anxiety and want to be with you. This
Hmm.
kind of helped her a little bit with separation anxiety and being by herself, and that she can be by herself for a bit. Um, we also had, the standard metal kennel that if they sleep in, this is her space, her safe zone. So we bought
Right.
that too. A bunch of toys, a bunch of pee pads, washable pee pads,
Hmm.
some disposable ones too, because we didn't know how she would take to, or if she would just destroy the reusable ones.
Hmm.
Um, Italian Greyhounds are notorious for being cold and not tolerating cold very well, so we had to buy a little wardrobe for her. Because when we were going to go pick her up, she was going to come back on the plane and be in the cabin with us, and it's cold on a plane, so she
Right.
had to
Right.
have some sweaters. So, um, toys, what did I say? And some water bowls, of course, new bowls for her, treats that would be appropriate for her as a puppy. Because obviously can't necessarily have the hard ones, because even though they're going to get rid of those teeth, you don't want them breaking their teeth too early. So some softer chews, blankets, because they need that little you almost need to swaddle them sometimes because they sleep a lot. So, and they like to,
Hmm.
Italian Greyhounds especially love to be under covers. I also bought it's a dog toy, but it's like a stuffed animal dog with like a heating pad on the inside with a little
Mm,
heartbeat thump thing
yeah,
that
I've
would
seen
go
those.
off. Yeah, for it helps with anxiety. So, bought that. She played with that like a toy, so I don't think it really helped her with her anxiety, but we did have that on standby in case. Uh, I have to go back through and look at a lot more things, but that's kind of most of the standard of what I bought. I
Hmm.
did also have already from Jericho and Silo, which was my senior dogs that you, if you remember the last episode that I was on, had them at the time for the senior dog episode. I already had a set of stairs for the couch, but if I didn't have that, I would buy that because again, Italian Greyhounds break bones constantly. So, um, I think that was about it. There were some items like around the house, like I had to replace a trash can that didn't have a lid, and that was a
Hmm.
big mistake. We didn't replace that right away, and she knocked it over and was getting into the trash. So we had to get one that was heavier that she couldn't knock over with a metal lid on top of it. So, um, yeah, just kind of and leashes,
Yeah.
collars, harnesses, yeah, just all the
Hmm.
jazz. Hmm.
Yeah. So since this was my first big dog, but I brought her home very small, I had to buy several kennels, and I really invested in her ultimate kennel, which is a Roughlin kennel, because I know she'll be like going in the truck and different things with me, and I wanted something very safe in the car or in the truck. So we had to go outside of our comfort zone, like looking for kennels and crates. And a large focus for us is like kennel training her to be in there as much as possible, sleeping as much as possible, learning
Hmm.
neutrality. Um, I tried a lick mat. That is not
Hmm.
the breed to leave a lick
No,
mat in
Dutch
there.
Shepherd,
That thing was
no.
gone in 10 seconds. I ran to the restroom, came back, gone. Um, I didn't buy a ton of stuff for her initially. I relied on my trainer. So if it's your first puppy or your first of that breed or it's been a long time, maybe get a trainer before you get the dog.
Hmm.
Because for me, that was really helpful in saying, buy this, don't buy this. You know, you're going to want this particular tug, you're going to want this particular ball. And because she's going to be a service dog, it made it even more like different with what I could and couldn't buy.
Hmm.
And then, I'm already having to buy new water bowls and food bowls because right now she knows she can just pick them up and flip them. And that's her new thing this week. So
Oh, baby girl.
for me, it's still like a learning process. She's 15 weeks old. And so we are definitely still learning. I have stairs for the Pomeranians. She doesn't need those. She's already figured out the couch and the bed. She'll never need stairs. So yeah, I think, it depends on your breed and kind of like you were saying earlier with researching whether it's connecting with a trainer, connecting with the breeder beforehand. Hey, what should I get? What do you recommend? Going on like Reddit, finding a Reddit thread for puppy and then the breed, I think could be helpful because some breeds, you need a certain hairbrush
Hmm.
or, some dogs are better on a collar, some are better on a harness, understanding that. For me, I haven't even bought a new collar yet. She still has hers from her breeder because I know she's going to double in size. So I'm like waiting. And then her service dog vest, I haven't decided on because I've never had to buy one. So I'm like researching like what's best for her. So research, research, research. And if you inadvertently get the puppy and don't research, crack your phone open the second you get home because you're going to need to start.
Hmm.
So, what was your first week, 2 weeks? How did those first few weeks go? What are some tips? Talk to us a little bit about that integration into your household.
Ideally, if you're able to, taking time off of work is a
Mm,
priority when puppy first comes home, if you can. And that's what I did. I took a couple of days to help puppy adjust to it's a whole new environment. I mean, they're
right.
leaving everything they've known. This is their first time living. So
Hmm.
everything that she's ever experienced and known has been flipped upside down. And now she's in this new area. She doesn't know all these new smells. It can be overwhelming. They may not be as playful right away. They may be exhausted just because they're overwhelmed. So taking time off of work to help them not only adjust their surroundings, but to get used to you as well
Hmm.
is very, very helpful. First week was a learning curve. I mean, it's a puppy, so, and I'm sure you may have dealt with this too, but kennel training it can be a nightmare when you first get a puppy and the
Yes.
puppy getting used to that.
Yes.
Um, you really need to decide up front, do you want the puppy to sleep, or for the dog the rest of its life, essentially, for the most part, to sleep in a kennel or to sleep with you in bed, or not in a kennel, not in a bed, and on the floor, like in their own dog bed, which isn't super safe. You'd want still some sort of kennel contraption around them so they're not wandering at night if you're doing that. Ideally, if you can do the kennel, because that also helps with potty training a bit, helps them kind of get used to that and get on a schedule, and that's also kind of their safe space. But getting them in that puppy or the kennel for the first few nights, the puppies tend to not like it. They will
Yeah.
howl, they will bark, they will throw a tantrum, they want out, they don't know what's going on, they're scared for a little bit. And it's just letting them settle, letting them cry it out, if you will, just like you would a baby, let them get through it. So
Hmm.
I took time off of work. It was an adjustment. In the end, we did decide to have the puppies sleep with us because we didn't do that with all of our other dogs. They were kennel trained, and
Hmm.
so we had them in the kennel. And I got to a point in my life where I was like, I want to experience this and have them sleep with us and in the bed with us. So they do now, but they are also kennel trained. So they know when we leave the house for too long because they're still puppies and they still get into things, even though they're getting better. We still kennel train them and they still go in there and they settle and they find and they sleep pretty much all day in there.
Hmm.
Um, it was a big learning curve, learning that forgot that even though I get on my hands and knees and look around, that bath mats are a thing and got destroyed. So the bath
Yeah.
mats got destroyed like right away. Um, Teaching her where things were in the house, so like her water dish, her food, her pee pad, where she can go. We also, when we first got her, got Sky, we got a special pee pad that had like the grass, the AstroTurf, that was like a
Mm-hmm.
tray. She immediately destroyed that. So yeah, to go with the trainer and talk with the trainer first to learn, because also we also bought this nice plastic kind of bucket for all her toys to go in. She destroyed that, so now we have a metal one.
Yeah.
So she can't destroy that one. Um, it was some sleepless nights and her getting used to it. But if you want them to sleep in a kennel, you can't bend. You gotta let them cry it out. Don't. If the second you give in, they know that they can just keep whining, and eventually you'll do it. So just letting them
Yeah.
cry it out, or let them sleep with you if that's what you decide to do. Getting used to their habits and trying to, because they're depending on how old they are. Sky was 8 weeks, so there wasn't
Hmm.
really a schedule yet that we had developed with her because we were still getting to learn her and her bathroom habits and her play habits and her nap schedule. So we were learning from her while she was learning from us, like our work
Hmm.
schedule and when we need to go out and when our bedtime is and when we wake up. And getting up in the middle of the night was a big thing. Getting her, because when she was starting to sleep with us instead of the kennel, she still needed to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So we would have to
Right.
help her get down, show her where the stairs were, show her where her pee pad was, and get up in the middle of the night. So a lot of sleepless nights for the first couple of weeks. Her getting used to walking on a leash and a harness. Luckily, that went pretty smooth.
Hmm.
We already knew the bit of the research already that Italian Greyhounds just have smaller bladders. I kind of told you this originally a little bit. Smaller bladders, so a lot of trainers say if you have a puppy, however months old they are, is typically an hour how long they can hold their
Right.
bladder or go to the bathroom. Doesn't work for an Italian Greyhound. Not a thing. It's about half that. So about every month that they are is about 30 minutes that they can hold it
Mm.
versus an hour. So learning that adjustment period, and that's why we have not only they housebroken, they know to go outside to go to the bathroom, but in case if I'm busy on a phone call and not able to, there are designated areas in the house where they have pee pads that they can go to. So like their own
Hmm.
bathroom, they can go to their own
Right.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Um, Teaching her that,
Hmm.
teaching her, again, when we wake up, that's when we can have some playtime. Teething was
Yeah.
a fun thing.
I'm going through it right now.
Yeah, arms
Yeah.
all cut up,
Yeah.
shirts, shoes destroyed, everything. I had to remember to make sure I'm shutting my closet door behind me and that no shoes were left unattended. If you came into my house and took off your flip-flops or shoes, please pick them up or put them outside or something because they will be gone. So,
Yeah.
but that's essentially kind of what the first week was. A lot of sleepless nights, an
Hmm.
adjustment period. took time off of work so that way we could get used to her and she can kind of get used to us a bit. And so we can develop that bond so that way she knows that if we do need to put her in a kennel for X amount of time, that we'll be back. So
Yeah, so we had somewhat of a similar experience. Actually, our very first night home, Kova slept in her kennel and didn't make a sound. And I was like, oh, this will be so easy. No, no. The next day I had to work. I worked from home and she just howled and cried and barked from her kennel. And then I would say the next week, probably next 2 weeks, she would, bark and howl and cry in her kennel at night. And we're having her exclusively sleep in her kennel at this point in time, especially since we have the other three dogs. It's a safer situation to have her in that kennel. And I really want her to understand that that kennel is where she should be whenever she's being neutral and just hanging out. And part of that is feeding her in the kennel. So that was one big thing for my trainers, getting her used to the kennel, is feeding her meals in there. So she associates it as somewhere good to go. Because a lot of people, I feel like they just throw their dog in the kennel whenever they leave. And their dog's like, wait, they're leaving. Kennel equals leave. Kennel equals bad. And you've got to break that. And so if you are crate training, kennel training, making sure they have good associations with that, not just negative of you leaving.
right.
And then the potty training, I forgot how often puppies went to the bathroom. And so if I got too caught up at work and I waited, 3 hours or 4 hours, and like you said, it does kind of increase over time, the duration. And that was a learning curve. And for us, it's keeping her on a leash 24/7, because the 3 seconds we let her out of our sight off a leash, she gets a hold of something and it's done, it's destroyed. I work at a cycle studio and she comes with me, and she got away for 5 seconds and ripped out the floor lighting, and literally a split second. Having worked in rescue for so long, that's why a lot of puppies get dumped. Potty training and chewing. And it's like, they're puppies. You are going to deal with that. Honestly, no matter what. I truly think no matter the breed, there's going to be a little bit of learning curve with the potty training and a little bit of a learning curve / headache with the chewing. It's just what puppies do. And so if that's something you don't want to deal with, maybe you get an older dog, maybe, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old. They might not be potty trained, but it might be easier to potty train them because they're not having to go so frequently. And then the chewing, hey, they might still chew, but maybe not like a puppy. So yeah, same thing for us on all of that. And then also, she loves to eat. And so getting her to slow down when she eats, because she'll just, like a vacuum, like Patrick the Star in that one SpongeBob episode where he sucks all the cookies in. That's
Oh,
Kova.
nom, 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 nom.
Yeah. So we're trying to get
Baby
her to
girl.
like slow down. So like portioning out her meals in different ways. So that's something that we've been working on. But kind of like you said about creating boundaries and safe places and like areas for your dog to be, even if you're not using a kennel, you do need restrictions. Like your puppy should not have free reign to just run amok through the house. So I think that's another mistake I see people. I do it myself sometimes. I'll like let her have a little bit of freedom and I always regret it.
Right. Yeah. No, don't
What
do
would
it.
you what would you say was the easiest thing having a puppy, like a puppy? And what would you say was the hardest thing with the puppy?
Easiest. I mean, this right here. I mean, the playing is fun. I mean, they bring joy because when we lost Jericho and Silo, it was, of course, very sad. I had them 18 years
Right.
and we grew up together essentially, and so then lost them both. So then, but I wasn't ready for a dog, but I was still sad. Husband
Hmm.
traveled a lot for work, so I was home alone a lot. I got to a point where I wanted a companion, which is why we eventually decided, getting the girls. So bringing the joy, handling them, I would happily deal with all the high maintenance. If anything, you can see this one's still chewing, even though she's over a year old. Um, that is probably the easiest thing, is just having them and easy to love them. I mean, it's hard not to love when they have a happy waggy tail.
Right.
Um, and also feeding them. They love food. I mean, it's hard to find a dog that doesn't really like food. They
Yeah.
exist, but hard to find.
Right.
Um, Hardest thing I think at first, but I knew this going into the breed, so I was prepared after doing the research and knowing not only potty training, but also just the sleepless nights when you first get them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just going to be on a different schedule that they're just not used to you. So it was hard, which is why I took off work. So that way I would know that I'm not going to sleep very well. So I'm not going to be very productive at work. So that's why I took off. But the potty training, Italian Greyhounds are just known to be difficult to potty train. And it's mostly because they have the smaller bladder. A lot of people are not prepared for that. And so kind of a similar situation. People get frustrated with it. The pee pads work well with us, and having that set up for them to have an alternative to go. Some people think of it as a crutch and that it's a horrible idea, that they
Mm-hmm.
should exclusively be outside for that, or to go outside exclusively for that, which, yes, ideally, but not all breeds are built the same. Not all breeds can do that. So we have it as an alternative if need be. So I say loving them and playing with them is the easiest part and the most rewarding part of it, and seeing how much they love you and how excited they are when you come home. But the potty training is very difficult, and the sleepless nights when you first get them, just and replacing many shoes and
Yeah. Yeah.
cabinets and items. So
And it definitely depends on the breed. Like I was telling you, the Pomeranians were a little bit harder to potty train than the Dutch Shepherd, but the chewing and biting is way worse with the Dutch Shepherd, and we're still working through it. The chewing is difficult. Like if you get a working dog, a Dutch Shepherd, a Malinois, whatever you get, they're going to be chewy. They're going to be a little bitey, and
hmm
I feel like in the beginning, especially, you're trying to not correct it too much. Like you're letting them be a puppy or letting them kind of learn, and then you start to implement corrections, whatever that might look like. And so, again, had to rely on my trainer for this. It's like, when do I do this? When do I implement that? I was surprised with my Dutchie how quickly she could learn, like, she could pick up on things and learn different, like, not just obedience, like the sit and the down, but like learning our routine. And if I would say certain things, she already kind of knew what I meant because she was just paying so close attention, which
hmm
is part of like what we're building. We're like building that bond. So she looks to me for that. And so it's been kind of cool to see, like, thinking about bringing her home week one versus a few weeks later, and her knowing like my schedule and when I say certain things and what it means, because we feed her in her crate. Now when I grab her bowl, she just runs to her crate and then she sits in it. And like,
hmm
it's kind of funny to think the first week I'm like, okay, we got to go to the crate, and I'm like egging her in. So it's been fun to see. And then for her, I've had fun educating people. Like, people want to come up and get in her face immediately because she's a puppy. And I'm like, hey, she will bite you. She will just grab a hold. And like teaching people that, you wouldn't think you'd have to. But it's also been very rewarding to try to educate people on different breeds and how to interact with dogs, and any dog you should not be getting face to face with.
hmm
And just that's been interesting. And also for that is teaching people about service dogs. So we've taken her out a few times. We took her to a big event that she might not have been ready for, but she did a good job. So many people were like, oh, she's going to be a service dog. What is she going to do? What's wrong with you? What's your disability?
What's wrong with you? Give me all
Right.
your medical history.
Uh-huh. And it's like, you can't say that. It's fine with me. I'm going to say 90% of people, that's not okay. That could be very triggering. That could be
hmm
very upsetting. For me, I was very open about it. And it's funny, you watch people in real time be like, I shouldn't have asked you that. I'm so sorry. Like, or some people didn't even realize that what they asked was kind of crazy or off basis. So if you have a puppy that you're training to be a service dog, be prepared that the public is just not used to interacting or learning about it. And if you're open about it, tell people, like explain it to them, help them understand. I think, maybe I've helped 10 different people kind of understand invisible illnesses and like chronic illnesses. And you might not see that there are disabilities, but that I have a service dog that I'm training. So for me, that's been very eye-opening, but also like rewarding.
Yeah. So, yeah, circling back to like, don't get in the puppy's face. When I
Yeah.
first brought Sky home, Sky or Cora, now I can't remember off the top of my head, because it was kind of both similar situation, both dogs that I had when I was taking them home. Because we flew them. We flew them. We flew out there. We picked them up from Missouri. I live in Florida, so we went to Missouri. It's where the breeder was. Got them, brought them back. Again, these are two separate times, but of course they're cute puppies. Who doesn't want to play or hold or pet a cute little puppy? But as we're walking around the airport, I did keep them in their kennel for the most part, but we were, delayed and layovers and stuff. So, and you're there for a while, and the puppy needs to get out and go to the bathroom. So I bring the puppy out, make sure I had a designated area that was not in the. People are like, just take them to the pet zone that's there that they can go to the bathroom. But this is a puppy that's not
Yeah.
fully vaccinated
Yeah. A
that
puppy
could
that
get
could pick up
parvo.
anything. Parvo was the first thing I thought of.
Parvo. I was so hyper aware the entire time I was transporting them that they cannot touch the floor, that we cannot go here, we cannot go there. I don't want
Right.
to put her down here because I was so hyper aware that they could get parvo. Well, when we were flying, there was this one individual who was sitting next to me on the plane who would not stop asking. This is an older individual. I think she was 40s or 50s, who would not stop asking, "Can I pet your puppy? Can you bring her out?
Oh
Let
my
me see her." And
gosh.
we're on the plane, like in the air. They're not supposed to get out of their kennels unless they're
Right.
service dogs, which mine is not clearly. So no need to bring her out. I'm like, no. She's like, well, can you unzip and I can pet her and can I play with her? I'm
No.
like, no, you can't. We landed and I'm getting her out. I'm getting the kennel out and everything from under the seat in front of me and getting my stuff. And we're about to walk off. And of course, Sky or Cora is whining because she wants out. There's a lot
Right.
happening, loud noises. She doesn't know what's going on. It's her first time
Hmm.
meeting everybody. And the woman's like, "Yeah, your mommy's so mean that she won't take you out of the kennel for me to pet you." And I said, "Well, I don't know if you have parvo. I don't know if you're carrying it or whatever. So no, I'll look like a really not nice person to make sure that she is safe, because this is her first time living too. Yes, that's nice, and yes, puppies are really cute, but the public doesn't necessarily understand if they haven't had a puppy and gone through and done the research to look into that it's dangerous when they're young like that. Don't get in their face. Don't just come up and pet a dog that you don't know, that's unfamiliar.
Right.
Dog doesn't know you. Owner doesn't know you. Doesn't know what
Right.
you're gonna do if you're a crazy person who's gonna try to steal my puppy. Because also, I don't know what she was gonna do. I don't know if she's gonna grab the dog and go to the bathroom and just stay there until we land or what. But
Right.
no idea. Um, but yeah, and the service dog. I've seen a lot of videos like on TikTok and social media of like people claiming they have service dogs and
Yeah.
trying to get into areas when actual real service dogs are nearby and putting their lives, that's an expensive service dog that's doing its job and keeping somebody
Hmm.
alive and in a safe area. And you're just saying that you have a service dog just so you can bring them to a bar or bring them to somewhere.
Right.
So
Right.
not okay. Not okay.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I've tried to be very clear to people is like she's not a service dog yet. She's in training. I People also assume like you get the puppy service dog and it's like no, it's actually years of training. She's not yet. Um but I have been surprised at how many people were respectful of like, "Oh, she's going to be a service dog. Can I pet her?" Like I recognize I might not be able to engage. And even for me with my trainer, it's like, okay, how long can people engage with her? When do I kind of cut that off and teach her that neutrality around people? Because you're balancing like socialization versus neutrality and trying to figure that out. And
Hmm.
so, as you can see, I'm relying on my trainer a lot for this puppy. I feel like I have to, there's so many first time things for me. And even though I've had dogs my entire life, this is a brand new experience. And it's not often that people get puppies. And so I think even just like I said, getting on Reddit or you can Google, there's going to be a lot, but just having as much preparedness as possible. And that's really the only thing that I can say is just be prepared. Set your expectations. Your puppy's not going to be potty trained. They're not going to know your schedule. They are going to chew. And so just level setting your expectations whenever you get that dog because it's not all just cute social media photos.
Yeah. You're the teacher. You have to teach them. They don't know
Hmm.
until you tell them. So yeah.
Yeah. Any final advice for someone who might be getting a puppy, whether they're doing a breeder, a rescue, going to the Humane Society, anything else that you can think of, or anything you want to reiterate?
Really look into breed specifically of what you want to get, if anything, whether it's a rescue or a breeder directly, regardless, puppy, whatever age. Because at one point in time in my life, I wanted a Siberian Husky, and then I did the research and realized I'm not the right owner for a Husky. They are very stubborn. I will not handle the maintenance of that coat very well.
They shed like crazy.
I don't do that. Mine barely shed. So, and they have short fur. And so that's when I realized that's not the dog for me. I'm not that kind of dog owner. So I would not be the right fit for that dog. It would make no sense for me, even though they're beautiful dogs. I've always wanted one. I would be not the best owner for them. So really do your research into the breed, even if it's one you've always wanted, really deep dive. You can't over research a breed really, and making sure you're the right fit for it, not just you. Or not just them being the right fit for you, but you the right fit for them. If it doesn't make sense, it may not be the right time in life to get that particular breed, but that doesn't mean there isn't another breed out there that may work better for you. So research the breed, because then at that point in time, you find something that will work for your family and you, and less likely for that dog to be put into a shelter and have to be rehomed. So I say really focus on that. And then if you do go with a breeder, really deep dive into the breeder. And if you're not willing to do a contract, why? Why don't you want to do a contract?
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, Savannah, thank you for jumping on. We might do a check-in with you in like a year to see how the girls are doing out of their puppyhood. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have fun.
Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.